Hello trainers, Ganeto here with some great link action featuring my best teams video. For the first team showcase out of the total usual 4, we're gonna have the Registeel up on the lead, at the back the Pelipper, while Trevenant will be our main closer. The single code breaker here is gonna be another Trevenant, and that's mainly because it can destroy down Registeel with its unique typing, while you might want to consider running something like a flash cannon on your Regi only for that factor. Other than that, I believe that Zap Cannon and Fox Blast will provide coverage pretty much against anything in the current meta and the upcoming meta of Great League, so you can be on a very good spot most of the times with your Regi up in front. At the back with the Pelipper, you get a chance to flip around that very bad lead that you have anytime, especially up against something like a Stunfisk, something like a Bastiodon. Those weather balls are still gonna add up in immense damage for your enemy so that they cannot withhold, and of course you're gonna emerge victorious. Against Bastiodon though, Pelipper will slightly lose over there, but it doesn't matter. You can still go in with your Regi and start farming down with those Locons, and definitely you are gonna take a shield on the next matchups, because whatever Regi is gonna throw, it is gonna be a hard hitting moves. You do not want to use Shadow Registeel. I believe that the regular run is gonna perform much better, while this is gonna give you some room defensively because of your glassy backline as well. I really like Trevenant here as a closer, able to combine with that Pelipper to protect the Registeel from the ground types, and you can see that you can also protect the Registeel from the fighters as well. So this team is looking pretty wonderful. I recommend to you, and I think you're gonna have no other weaknesses other than this Trevenant of your opponent, but you still have a lot of play around it with the wing attacks, with the potential Zap Cannons, or just with a mirror match towards the end of the battle. We continue on with a team that I think has a lot of potential for this meta, and of course it is kind of predictable because it is super famous, but still you are gonna see that it's super steady, and that's why people recommend it and prefer it over anything else. Galarian Stunfisk up on the lead is gonna work like an amazing closer for your teams, while at the back you have Medicham as your closer. Perhaps you want to use that safe switch, it's up to you, or you can just go with your safe switch on the face of the Noctowl. Noctowl is gonna be able to go pretty well even against the steel types, even against electric, so you're gonna see that even against a Lantern, it is not the end of the world. You still have access to Shadow Ball, which is pretty cool for neutral damage, while you can always wall down that Trevenant of your opponent. Stunfisk might struggle a little bit against Trevenant, but I haven't added here as a core breaker because they need to definitely shield at least once if they want to emerge victorious against your Stunfisk, or you can just rotate properly and eventually have the better matchup over here with your Noctowl up against a Trevenant. Up on the lead it might be tricky only because you got the Medicham at the back, but other than that you're gonna be just fine even against a goal breaker of this team, the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini with the water guns and the serfs are just gonna do a lot of damage, super effective to your Stunfisk, while at the back the fairy typing will not be appreciated by your Medicham. However, it is gonna be kind of a neutral matchup on every end because still your earthquakes, the psychics, or the back-to-back sky attacks can deal with that Tapu Fini threat. Against Revenant, once again I recommend staying in with your Stunfisk because your back-to-back rock slides are still gonna be enough on that matchup, while Noctowl is gonna be your main way to go against a threat, leaving aside for your Medicham to sweep their entire team. This team is particularly strong, I recommend it to you, and now let's move forward into team number 3. Now we have a line that is gonna be kinda famous with Skarmory instead of Pidgeot, but I really like Pidgeot for this meta and I really like it more than Noctowl as a closer, so that's why we're gonna have it here at the end of the battle. And of course I believe that Pidgeot is also gonna come in pretty handy, unlike Skarmory with its debuff, the Feather Dance, which can definitely take a shield if you can play this Pokemon correctly and bait correctly, while Brave Bird can still connect for big damage on whatever your opponent is having. Even against something like a Stunfisk or a Registeel, that Brave Bird will not be appreciated that easily. So up in front, about Swampert, you can always use the regular run or the Shadow. I really like the Shadow because of that earthquake damage, but to be honest, most of the times you need that extra bulk, especially against counter users, so that's why I recommend using the regular over the Shadow if you feel kinda unsafe against fighters. At the back with the Drapion, you definitely need the Shadow one because that crunch can definitely destroy down some certain enemies, something like an Altaria, which happens to be the core breaker, more about that in a while, something like a Medicham, something like a Skarmory. Double crunch can definitely seal the deal against those threats, while Aqua Tail is gonna be your cheapest way to get to that charge attack. Totally lost my words once again. So Shadow Drapion, definitely one of the best safe switches of them all for the Great League meta. Altaria is gonna be our main core breaker for this line, able to go pretty rough against our Swampert at the back with the Drapion and the Pidgeot as well. However, double crunch, a pure Brave Bird, or just pressuring Hydro Cannons from a Shadow Swampert can eventually beat it off, so definitely a core breaker, however not a pretty tough one. Nevertheless, you're gonna see that this Pokemon, the Altaria, is still gonna be kind of a big troublemaker for our line on this battle, so that's why I am recommending this team. Even against an Altaria, you can still have a chance at winning your opponents. However, I'm just gonna lose here, but it doesn't matter. This thing is absolutely playable with every single individual pick from this team. For the final team showcase, we are having the core breaker from the previous line as our leader this time, the Altaria. At the back, the Jellicent as our safe switch with the new Surf, gonna get there in a while, and as our closer, the Shadow Machamp. If you do not have a Shadow, I don't know if you can play this team. I really recommend using Shadow because of the amazing damage output that those counters can do. However, you can still replace it with another fighter, something like a Medicham for example. I really like this team, even though without a fighter as a closer, because something like a Stunfisk can always help as well. However, Machamp I think is gonna have a nice fit in the meta with those Shadow counters, able to completely farm down the Steel types. It has a very solid matchup against general new meta Pokemon, something like a Lantern for example, so you're gonna be on a very good spot most of the times. The only core breaker for this team is gonna be the Fairy typing. With that in mind, I think that both the Altaria and that Machamp at the back are gonna struggle a bit, but with Whimsicott especially, you are gonna see that not only those two are gonna struggle, but also your Jellicent, because of that grass typing being super rough for your team. However, we are not seeing a lot of Charmers lately. Most Fairy types are using other moves, something like a Fairy Wind, Bubble, or whatever. You know why I'm saying Bubble, because of Azumarill, but still you're gonna see that you might be in a little bit of a trouble against Fairy types. If you are not seeing a lot of Fairy types, this team will be your best friend, otherwise you're gonna struggle a little bit. About Surf on Jellicent, I like it a lot. I think it gives it a lot of potential in the meta, especially against some fire types, while Shadow Ball is gonna be your main way to go still against most threats. Machamp on the end game, I believe that with Cross Chop and Rock Slide you're gonna be just fine, while Counter is gonna do most of the damage, and trust me, Counter is the best fast attack in the game. So that is gonna wrap things up for today's video. Great League seems like a really nice escape from the other leagues and Evolution Cup, which is gonna be centered around Chansey. So with that in mind, farewell to you trainers, and I hope to see you all into the next one. Thank you for watching, trainers. Just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and if you want to support even more, well, joining as a member can always help with that matter. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you all into the next one. Take care, trainers.